Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'll be teaching you how to crochet in the most simple and detailed way I possibly can. In this video, I will go over how to hold your yarn, how to hold your hook, slip knots, single crochets, and double crochets. So first off, our materials. Obviously, you'll need some yarn, you'll need a crochet hook, and then lastly, some scissors just to finish off your work. This will be what your final project will look like depending on how big or small you make it. It's just the single crochets at the bottom and the double crochets at the top. It looks pretty much the same on both sides since you work from side to side. We actually don't need your hook yet, so you can go ahead and set that aside. So first we're going to learn how to do a slip knot. This is what it will look like when you get good at it and you're used to doing it. And you put it on your hook like this, and then you can tighten it and loosen it, and it's super fun. I'll demonstrate slowly 3 times in a row how to do it, and then you can replay it if you still need it. So when you're making a slip knot, you want to make sure you have the short tail in your left hand and the long one that's attached to the yarn in your right hand. Then you want to cross the short tail over the long one, and then reach with your fingers to grab the long one and slowly pull through. And then all you have to do is pull the 2 strings apart and it'll come undone. Now to go over that again, you hold the short in your left hand and the long in your right hand. Put your 2 fingers here, and you're going to bring the short tail over the long tail, reach through with your 2 fingers to grab the long, and then pull tight. So I'll just go over it one more time. This is how you hold it, nice and easy. And then you pinch the short end, bring it over, grab the long end with your fingers, and pull through. Pretty simple. So this little part right here is called your yarn tail. And depending on what project you're doing, you can have it longer or shorter. I like to keep it a little long to weave it in at the end and make everything look clean. And now we'll get into how to hold your crochet hook. There are a few different types of crochet hooks. These are the kinds that I have right now, and although they look the same, they're actually very different. This one is the first crochet hook that I got, and I like it because it's nice and sturdy and the hook doesn't move, and the handle is also really comfy. I just don't like that I can't see the size because it's embedded in it, and I didn't want to have to line them up every time I wanted to use it. But other than that, it's really nice and I do like it. This is my newest and favorite crochet hook. They're from Clover Amoir. And I love how easy to read the sizes are. They have the letter and the number, and then the crochet hook itself is very comfortable to hold and it's super durable. This one is just from a cheap set from Hobby Lobby. I like it because I could read the handle and it's just what I needed in place before I got a nice big set. And then this one I got from a yarn bowl set. I like that you can read it very easily and it's a pretty cool shape. So since this one is the easiest to see on camera, I'll be showing you how to hold your crochet hook using this hook. So I like to hold my crochet hook in my right hand. I'm right-handed. Sorry, I can't help you if you're left-handed. You could probably find another video for that, or you could learn it right-handed. And as you can see, there's a nice flat part here for your thumb. I like to hold my hook like this. Some people prefer to hold it like this. Whichever you're more comfortable with is perfectly fine. But in this video, I'll be holding mine like this. So a few things to be aware of is to make sure that your hook faces you and that your thumb is on this flat part here. So when you hold your crochet hook, you want to make sure it's fixed in place. You can move it back and forth, you can move it up and down, but you do not want to twist it. If you twist it around in your hand while you work, you're going to mess up your tension and it's just going to be complicated when it doesn't have to be. So just to review, when you pick up your crochet hook, you want to make sure the point is facing you and your thumb is on that nice flat comfortable part. And again, this is just how I prefer to hold my crochet hook, but you can always do the pencil hold, which is like this if it's more comfortable for you. Moving on to how to hold your yarn. Now you will learn how to be one with your yarn and it will flow between your fingers like you're literally part of your yarn. It's really cool. So people will tell you, oh, hold it however you want, which seems annoying at first, but you really just have to hold it however you want and how it's comfortable in your hands. It's funny because I had to crochet to know how I hold my yarn, so I'll show you how I do it. So I hold my yarn by putting it between my middle finger and ring finger, pinching it, tucking my fingers, and putting my pointer finger in front of the yarn. That way I can hold what I'm working on. Now obviously, as you get better, you'll have bigger projects and you'll have more than just this string, Another thing to note when you're holding your yarn is you don't want to hold it too far back or too close. As you crochet, you'll find your happy medium. I like to hold mine about 1.5 inches or 2 inches away. That way I have good control over what I'm doing. So now that we know how to hold our yarn and how to hold our hook, we're going to put the two together. So we're going to start with that slip knot that we learned earlier by holding the short end in our left hand and the long in our right, pulling over the short to cross over and grabbing that long end and pulling it through. Now, it's okay if you let go of this. It's not going to get pulled apart unless it's pulled apart. There is also not really a back or a front. It can go either way onto your hook. Now here's the fun part. In order to make it tight, you want to pull the yarn that is connected to the yarn ball. So to make it tight, pull it connected to the yarn. And then to make it loose, you pull the one that's not connected to the yarn. And just to review, you pull the long one to make it tight and the short one to make it loose. So when you first put it on your hook, I like to pull it tight, that way it doesn't get flimsy and it stays in place, but you don't want to keep it tight on your hook. You actually want to loosen it so you have a little bit of space, just like that, so it's easier to work with. Okay, so now that we have our hook firm in our hand, and we're not going to move it, we're going to keep it still between our fingers. We're going to pick up our yarn, and you can hold it however you're comfortable, but I'll show you again how I hold it if that helps you. And just remember that as you crochet, you'll get more comfortable with holding your yarn. I like to hold my yarn tail closer rather than farther, because if you hold it far away, you're not going to have as much control when you're crocheting. So what I just did is called a chain, and that's what I'll be teaching you how to do now. Chains are typically used as the foundation when you're working in rows, so if you make blankets or sweaters, you'll typically be working in rows and chains will be at the bottom. You can also use chains to make spaces between your crochets, which I can show you in a different video. I'll show you in real speed how you make a chain. First you yarn over and then you pull through. Now I'll break that down for you. Yarning over is when you put your yarn from the back of the hook over the front of the hook. And you can also yarn under. That is when you put your yarn from the front of the hook to the back of the hook. So I'll show you again. Yarn over from the back to the front and yarn under from the front to the back. Now majority of the time you will use yarn over unless your pattern specifies to use yarn under. I'll be teaching with yarn over today. Another thing to do is hold your yarn on your hook. That way your yarn doesn't slide around and you have better control over it. I definitely recommend doing this just so it makes it easier when you're crocheting. In order to chain, you yarn over, turn your hook down, and pull through the loop that's on your hook. So I'll show you what your hook is going to do. If you watch the tip, it'll stay facing towards you. When you yarn over, then you'll face it down and pull it through the loop and pull it back up so it's facing you again. I'll go over the chain one more time. You yarn over, face your hook down, and pull through the loop that's on your hook. I like this. Something else I do is I drag my hook lightly across my finger when I chain, and that just helps me be more consistent, and you might like that too. Also, it's okay if you're having trouble figuring out how to hold the hook. It'll take some practice to get used to moving your wrist and your hand all together. And as you get used to crocheting, your chains will start to look more uniform, like this. Also, if your hook happens to come off while you're crocheting, that's okay. You'll notice this little hole right here that you can easily just slip your hook right back into. But sometimes it's a little too small for you to be able to slip your hook in and it can come undone. So if that happens, it's still okay. You can pull it to make it bigger, or if it's too small, just gently pull it all the way out and use the one underneath it to fit your hook in. So just like learning any new skill, you're going to want to practice a lot and do these chains over and over again until you can see consistency and you get used to the motion. Now would be a good time to pause the video and practice yarning over and pulling through and getting used to the chains before we move on to the single crochets. While you're crocheting, it's totally common for your yarn to get stuck on your hook like this. All you have to do is gently pull the working yarn off and it'll come right out. Again, it's super easy. All you have to do is pull your working yarn off slowly and it'll pop right over your hook. So you can always take your yarn off your hook, and this is called frogging, when you pull your work apart and it comes undone, and it tends to leave a little wave in the yarn too, which I think is pretty. Now you don't have to frog it if you don't want to. I just let you know what the term is and what it looks like, and you're welcome to start over your chains if you did to get your practice in. So your slip knot and then put it on your hook and you can begin your chains like normal. Just remember to leave a little bit of space between your hook and the slip knot. A little handy trick is that you can set down your yarn by pulling a big yarn loop at the top, and it's not going to come undone unless it's pulled apart, and there's a big loop at the top that you can put your hook back into in order to continue working. Now there is a front and a back to your chains. The front has a very distinct V shape. It almost looks like a braid, and the back has little bumps in between each of them. So again, this is the front, it has the V's, and this is the back, it has the bumps. I'm going to chain up to 12 and then I'll come back and show you how to single crochet. It's actually really easy to count your stitches. Since they're very distinct, you just pick a side and you can count whichever string you want to on that side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So when you want to start working on your base chain row, you want to work in the back loops only, so the back side of each V. Another thing to note is only on your first row of the single crochets, you want to work in the second loop from hook. So you have the loops here that are on your hook, and you can see that this is the first from hook and this is the second from hook. And you're going to work into the back loop, so you'll push in the middle and it'll come through at the back. So now I'll show you at a slower pace. So first you want to insert your crochet hook into the middle of the V and come out through that back loop. And then yarn over and pull through that first loop. So now you'll have 2 loops on your hook. I like to hold my newest loop, that way I have more control over my crochet. Now yarn over again and pull through both of those loops. And another thing to keep in mind is your tension. You don't want to hold this too tight because then you can't get any working yarn. And you don't want to hold it too loose because then you won't have any control. So you'll find your happy medium as you start crocheting, and it'll be easier to know how tight you want to hold it. I'll go ahead and do another single crochet so you can see how it looks. Go into your V through the back loop right here, yarn over and grab it through. So now you'll have 2 loops on your hook. Hold your newest one, yarn over again, and pull through both loops on your hook, just like that. Always make sure you leave excess yarn so you're not messing up the tension of your project. And just for reference, I'll let you see how the yarn slides through the hand that's holding it. That way my tension is good. I just let it slide through on its own, and I kind of control how fast it comes out, but I'm not holding it so tight that it can't come out, or so loose that it comes out too easily. So as you're coming up on the last chain of your row, you will crochet into that one like normal, but you will leave the slip knot untouched. So there you go. This is your first row of single crochets. This is what it looks like. If yours is a little twisted, that's okay. It just means your tension is a little too tight, but as you learn how to crochet, you'll get used to it and it'll be straighter. So in order to go to the next row, we want to chain 1 and turn our work this way to this way. So we always work from right to left in crochet. It's the opposite of reading. And then as you can see, you have your V's on the top, which is what our chains look like, but this time you'll be going through both of them instead of just one. I'll show you without crocheting where your hook will go. It'll go right here underneath this V, so you'll wiggle it through and it makes a nice little hole in the bottom, so it's super easy to tell where you want to go, and you just make sure that you can see your hook through the V. Now we'll do another row of single crochet, and I'll show you that going through both V's. So the chain's purpose is to bring you up to the height of the next round so it's not curved on the side. So you'll want to go into the V that has your chain in it. I forgot and went to the one away from it here, but make sure you go to the one where your chain is. That way you have a nice straight edge, and then you'll single crochet like normal. And then you'll just continue the row going V by V, putting your chain underneath both loops, yarning over once, pulling through, yarning over again, and pulling through the 2 loops. I'll show you again slowly a few more times from different angles, that way you know exactly where you're going. So if you yarn over and pull through, but you only make it through 1 loop, that's okay. You can just bring it back through the second one, just like that. So the very last V of your row might be kind of hard to see and it might be a little wonky, but that's okay because you can still kind of make it out. This is what mine looks like. And it's super easy to still put your hook through it. You might just have to wiggle a bit more. There you go, your first 2 rows of single crochet. If you'd like to keep practicing your single crochets, you can keep going as many rows as you'd like, but now I'll show you how to do double crochets. Just remember to chain 1 to go up to the height of your next row, and to turn your work, and work from right to left. And then go into the one where your chain is attached instead of the one that I'm pointing to. I'll put a little arrow here. I was actually trying to get my yarn to do this earlier, but it couldn't, but if this happens, it's okay. This just means your yarn string was a little loose, and it didn't make it all the way through that second hook. If this happens, you just want to pull your hook down and gently slide it over that last loop, and then it'll be together with the rest of your yarn. Another thing that could happen when you crochet is that your hook comes off the yarn. This is also okay. You just want to either put your hook back through the yarn hole and it's secure, or if that hole happens to be too small for you to put your hook through, you're welcome to pull it out slowly until your next one comes through, and you can put your hook through that one and then pull the rest of it away so it's still tight on here. You just always want to be sure that your last chain or last stitch loop is the one that is on your hook, because you can save your last one and get rid of your new one. That way it doesn't all frog. So now I'll show you how to double crochet. These are super fun and I really like doing them because you get to twist your yarn around your hook one more time. So from your last row where you would go to do your chain, instead of chaining 1, you want to chain 2. And there are other methods of getting to the height of a chain 2, but we can go into that in a different video. And then you'll just turn your work like normal. I'll go ahead and show you what a double crochet looks like. You yarn over, pull through, you have 3 on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. Now I'll break it down for you. When you double crochet, you want to yarn over first, and then I put my finger on that area just so I have more control. You can tell that we've already worked in this one because the loop is pulled up as opposed to the V being flat. So after you yarn over, you insert into your V and yarn over and pull through like normal, and you'll see that you'll have 3 loops on your hook instead of just 2. And I still hold the middle yarn during this one. So from here, you yarn over and only pull through the first 2 loops. And then you'll have the 2 on your hook again. So you yarn over again and pull through those final 2 loops. And that's it. And this does use a bit more yarn than normal crochet, so I like to pull a bit extra and keep it aside. So now I'll show you again how to do the double crochet. Yarn over and put your finger on the working yarn. Insert into your V. Yarn over, pull through that V. You have 3 on your hook. Yarn over and pull through the first 2. Just like this. And then yarn over again and pull through the final 2 loops. I'll do a couple more slowly, that way you can watch if that helps you, and if not, you're welcome to skip through to the end of the row. Now again, we are at the final V of our row, and it might be hard to see, but it's still there, I promise, and you'll just have to give it a little extra wiggle and proceed like normal. And here you have your first row of double crochets. If you ever want to take a break while you're working, all you have to do is pull the yarn loop big, and you can set it down and it's not going to go anywhere. And you can tell that your crochets are double crochets because of how much taller they are than the single crochets, and there's a bit more of a gap between them. So now, just like with the single crochets, you're going to chain 2 and turn your work, and you can do another row on top and then come back when you're done. And there you have it, guys. Congratulations, you've learned how to chain, slip knot, single, and double crochet. Also, there's not really a front or back when it comes to this because you've worked in rows going back and forth on both sides, so both are the front and back. Now before I cut my yarn, I like to do an extra chain just to make sure that my yarn is super secure. Like I said earlier, I like to leave a bit of a longer yarn tail so that way I can weave in the ends. And you want to cut the yarn that's attached and then put your hook back through the hole and just pull it all the way through. And then you can pull that yarn tail tight, and that's it. Good job, guys. I'm so proud of you for learning how to crochet, and this is your final product. I like to keep mine to see how far I've come. It's super fun to see the little swatch, and there you go. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching.